The Mandela Effect refers to a phenomenon in which large groups of individuals share consistent false memories about specific events, cultural icons, or details that are very different from the documented reality. It's named after the widespread but incorrect recollection that Nelson Mandela died in prison during the 1980s, in spite of the fact that his actual release was reported to be in 1990, and his death was in 2013. Many understand that we are watching a movie since 2016, but these allegedly contrived events occurred long before this time, so we can't just chalk them up to deliberate manipulation just yet. So let's take a look at this phenomenon from a neuroscientific perspective, which supports a manifestation of the brain's reconstructive memory processes. We are told to consider the possibility that these are recollections that have been pieced together from fragments of information which has been influenced by cognitive biases that have led to systematic errors. This is a wild notion that our brains are reconstructing memories that don't exist based on our learned biases. Now, personally, I have a bit of a problem with saying that there is fallibility in our memory because of the amazing design of the human nervous system. I mean, can our brain spontaneously mess up without some sort of external input or intervention? I'm gonna remain open, so let's take a look at what we've been told and the recent science of the mind. Mainstream science tells us that the Mandela Effect highlights the fallibility of our memory, which isn't a static recording but a dynamic reconstruction which is prone to distortion. Okay, I get the constantly moving, changing, and learning brain, but what causes the distortion? So to me, this implies that the human brain is highly sensitive to external influences. As a foundation to this discussion, let's consider these well-documented examples of collective false memories and look for patterns in them that might reveal exactly how such memory errors occur. See what you remember. First, the Berenstain Bears. Many people recall the children's book series as Berenstain Bears, with an E, but official records confirm it has always been Berenstain, with an A. I don't personally remember that one, but I wrongly remember the Monopoly Man, also known as Rich Uncle Pennybags. Lots of us remember him wearing a monocle, yet no official artwork ever included one. So I'm thinking that this is mixed up with a similar popular character, Mr. Peanut, who did have a monocle. Then there's the Fruit of the Loom logo. I could have sworn there was a horn of plenty behind the fruit, but the logo has never featured one. Did our brain make a connection to other images it saw about a harvest and add it? Then there's the Star Wars quote that is commonly misremembered as, "Luke, I am your father." But the actual dialogue is, "No, I am your father." Did the brain intervene to add clarity to the quote? How about the Shazam movie? Many recall a 1990s film starring Sinbad as a genie titled Shazam, but no such film exists. Actually, now that they mentioned it, my mind is kinda thinking I remember it. This is wild. It's believed that people confuse it with Shaquille O'Neal's Kazam with a K, and that's certainly possible. These examples aren't random, and there's a consistency across populations. Everyone's brain seems to be doing this the same basic way, instead of each person just doing their own weird, unique version. Imagine 30 students all solving the same tricky puzzle, and rather than each one solving it in different ways, almost everyone solves the puzzle using pretty much the same mental steps in roughly the same order. That means there's a common brain trick or a shared cognitive mechanism that most humans are born with or automatically use. So this isn't really a disorder, we're designed this way. I wonder why that is. Designed to make mistakes. I've always thought that our purpose is for the one to renew itself through expansion or learning. How do we learn? Mistakes. Let's look at the neurological and biological mechanisms involved now. From a biological standpoint, the Mandela effect arises from the brain's memory system, which involves multiple interconnected regions and processes. Your brain doesn't store memories like videos saved perfectly on your phone or files on a computer. Instead, memories are spread out across tons of different brain areas, kinda like puzzle pieces scattered in a big network. The main players in the memory system are the hippocampus, which helps form and organize memories, and the prefrontal cortex, which helps you think about and pull memories back up. When we try to remember something later, our brain doesn't just play back a perfect recording. It has to rebuild the memory from all those scattered pieces. And every time it rebuilds, there's a chance for small mistakes or changes to sneak in, especially if we saw or heard something similar. It's described like trying to put together a puzzle from memory without looking at the box, and sometimes you swap two similar pieces by accident. I can see this mechanism being feasible, especially when the brain areas are impacted by things like microplastics, toxins, and electromagnetic radiation. Other people suggest a different version, where our brain fills in gaps with what makes sense, or what we've seen a lot of before. So it's not about your brain as a person. Experts believe that it's the way the brain is designed to operate. This is why memory reconstruction can go wrong in similar ways for so many people in a world of harmful conveniences. Let's look a little deeper at how the areas of the brain might be involved. First, there's the hippocampus and medial temporal lobe, where the hippocampus plays a central role in encoding and consolidating memory episodes or personal experiences tied to time and place. During retrieval, it reassembles fragments from sensory cortices, like visual details from the occipital lobe of the brain. In false memories, incomplete encoding leads to gaps, which the brain fills with plausible but inaccurate information based on what's known as schemas, or pre-existing mental references. Functional MRI studies show similar activation of the hippocampus for both true and false memories, indicating the brain can't distinguish whether a memory is true or false. This is huge to me and totally supports what we already know about manifestation. The brain on its face will accept anything it's told. Now let's look at the prefrontal cortex region, which oversees executive functions like memory retrieval and source monitoring, or distinguishing real events from imagined ones. Impairments or biases here contribute to confabulation, where the brain generates fabricated details to create a coherent narrative. It has no intent to deceive, just like artificial intelligence. In the Mandela Effect, this prefrontal involvement allows other biases and similar memories to override accurate recall, leading to shared distortions. Then there's the amygdala and emotional influences, where emotionally charged memories are more vivid but also believed to be more prone to error. The amygdala modulates something called emotional tagging, which can amplify misinformation if an event, like Mandela's death, evokes strong feelings. This biological link explains why Mandela effect instances often involve culturally significant or traumatic themes. So errors driven by this design occur when the brain uses schemas to predict and fill gaps, leading to consistent mistakes, like adding a monocle to fit a wealthy gentleman prototype. Now let's look how this design of the human brain has been used in social or peer reinforcement. Online communities and media propagate such errors by creating echo chambers that biologically reinforce our neural pathways through repetition. If you hear a lie enough times, your mind accepts it. There's ongoing concerns about AI-generated content, like deepfakes. exacerbating this by seeding more plausible lies and overloading the brain's source monitoring capacities. I wonder how many times those AI-generated photos of President Trump with young girls have to be generated before a victim falsely remembers the event. If you think that the people with all the money in the world, controlling all this research, aren't using this knowledge to control us, then you're really naive. That's why they lie till they die, knowing that if they can get that lie repeated enough times, it becomes our reality. That's the effect of the echo chamber. What this tells me, with increasing clarity and validation, is that our thoughts and beliefs are the master of what our brain assembles, as precedents or references, so to speak. Also, the more emotions we attach, the more tagging amplifies the reference. For those of you who manifest, maybe you can share with others, but for me, I have definitely noticed more effective energy healing with stronger emotions. In fact, I deliberately try to stir up emotions during my healing visualization. Much like intense emotion in a heartfelt prayer. Every day we learn more and more about this amazing machine that houses our spirits. The Mandela Effect may never have been about getting a logo wrong or misremembering a line. It may have been the observable footprint of how the human brain actively constructs reality, moment by moment, through expectation, repetition, and belief. Once you understand this mechanism, manifestation stops sounding mystical and starts looking biological. And when people understand how reality is formed internally, they become far harder to control externally. That may be why this knowledge stayed fragmented and dismissed for so long. Awareness isn't about fear, it's about sovereignty. And once you see the mechanism, you can no longer unsee it.